Hey, what's going on, guys? JTK here. Welcome back to another video. In this one today, we are going to be continuing the reverse retrospective series that I started about a week ago. Now, for those of you who are new to the series, reverse retrospective is about taking people from the community's tier list and determining the top 5 best maps and the top 5 worst maps of all time from Treyarch Zombies. And with the top 5 best maps, we have Origins, Mob of the Dead, Shadows of Evil, Garad Krovi, and Horizon Drac. And with the top 5 worst, we have Transit, Die Rise, Voyage of Despair, Alpha Omega, and Blood of the Dead. Now, instead of having a normal retrospective series where we explain how the worst maps are bad and how the good maps are good, this series is going to be more focused on explaining how the top 5 best maps are the bad ones and the top 5 worst maps are the good ones. Now, the point of this reverse retrospective is to bring a different view on stereotypical placements of maps, because everybody already knows what good maps are, like Origins and Shadows, and everybody already knows what bad maps are as well, like Transit and Die Rise. But no one talks about the faults with the good maps or the hidden gems within the bad maps, like Transit and Die Rise. Last week we took a close look into Transit. If you haven't seen it already, check it out. But today we will be looking into the catastrophic failure that came right after that map. And this is why Die Rise is the greatest map of all time. I'm sure Johnny J is gonna love this one. Usually when I do ranking or review videos, I put criteria. Now for this video, that criteria is what makes a good zombies map, and it's going to be 5 separate things. 1 is going to be the map layout. Is it comfortable to run, train on, do all that? 2 is going to be the Easter egg. Is it fun to do? Is it replayable? Does it reward you well? 3 is going to be wonder weapons and the normal weapon roster. Did it bring in a lot of new weapons? Is the wonder weapon really fun to use and powerful? 4 is going to be mini bosses. Are the mini bosses influential to the map? Do they reward you with a lot of good stuff? And are they fun to go against? And 5, this is kind of a new tier that I'm adding in, innovation. What new did the map bring in, like perks, buildables, whatnot, that just changed zombies for how it is and just made it an overall better experience? Now, with these criteria out of the way, let's just start off with the first one, map layout. Now, Die Rise single-handedly utilizes the most verticality out of any zombies map to date, besides maybe Mauer to Toten later down in Cold War, but Jimmy Zielinski took a huge risk with utilizing this mechanic in zombies. From a spectacle standpoint, it's cool because the bottom floors are chaotic with dim colors and zombies spawning from above and around you. But once you reach to the top, it's a whole different story, with zombie spawns becoming more predictable, with bright, vibrant colors throughout the sky. It just looks unreal compared to any other zombies map, in my opinion. And I do like the symbolism between the bottom floors and the top floors, trying to just reach to safety towards the top. And some may argue that the verticality doesn't work in zombies because many times a player wants to move 5 feet in front of them, but then they end up having to go all the way around the map instead because they can't jump that high, or if they drop too fast then they'll kill themselves. However, the verticality on Die Rise is solved through many ways, like using the trample steam or mattresses to get down without having to take fall damage. A skilled player will always know the best spots to place the trample steam to avoid death, and is rewarded by speeding up the setup process on the map. Mind you, the setup process honestly isn't that hard in the first place. You have a few liquefier parts to collect, then you flip one switch, and that's pretty much it. You have the whole map unlocked for your liking. The map layout on Die Rise honestly isn't too bad, and is only hated because a simple solution perk like PhD was on the map but was inaccessible. But there's only about one spot really that you can kill yourself with fall damage, and that's in the elevator shaft. So is PhD really that necessary? Now that we've finished with the layout, let's talk about the Easter egg. In all honesty, the Easter egg on Die Rise doesn't meet up to some of the greats or other maps like Origins and Shadows, but it isn't too bad either. Doing the Die Rise Easter egg can be really easy and done within 3 minutes if you have the money in the bank and a really good team. The only step that I don't really like is the tile alignment towards the end with the tower, but other than that, the rest of the steps are pretty straightforward, like shooting a statue a ton of times with the liquefier and standing on symbols that are lying in the elevator shafts. The Easter egg has no huge RNG element that's too annoying compared to Transit where everyone on your team has to get EMP grenades. But the Easter egg on Die Rise really isn't that complex. It can be a little bit confusing for newer players though, going through it for the first time. There honestly isn't too much to say about the Easter egg other than that though on Die Rise, because there isn't really too much to it. It's still in the beginner stages really in Easter eggs. Easter eggs really haven't reached their peak, I would say, up until about Buried. This is like the huge continuation and lead up to the finale on Buried, and I feel like it's the only super Easter egg up until this point that connects both story and gameplay very well, because the concept is the same between Die Rise and Transit, and then it kind of just closes it all up in a nice bow tie with Buried. Let's talk about the weapons on the map. Die Rise has some of the best wall weapons out of any zombies map of all time. I have said countless times that the AN-94 and the SVU are some of the best weapons to ever exist in any zombies game. The AN-94 is probably the best AR in zombies with its high ammo, great damage, and great iron sights as well. The SVU is a semi-auto sniper that does high amounts of damage with a very fast fire rate, and both of these guns are very strong and solid weapons to have for later and early rounds. Even a gun like the PDW is very solid too. It has a large amount of ammo and is really good for points. It's not only the guns introduced on Die Rise that are great, the Wonder Weapon as well is very solid and one of the best. Pre-patch, I would say that the Slickifier was by far one of my favorite Wonder Weapons of all time. Even after patch, it still is, I would say, a top 10, maybe even like a top 5. It has a large amount of ammo, and the ammo is capable of killing more than a horde up towards the later rounds, and the way that Treyarch balanced it is by adding a slip mechanic that when used carelessly can slide you off the map or move the zombies in a dangerous location that you don't want them to be. Overall though, I would say the weapons on Die Rise are probably its best feature on the map and can actually compete with other great maps like Origins and Shadows by having a great weapon roster and a phenomenal Wonder Weapon. Enough with the Wonder Weapons, let's talk about the mini boss. The jumping jacks are both really rewarding but can be annoying. They are Nova crawlers that have no gas effect but jump around the map, making it harder to shoot them. This can be frustrating to deal with when killing them, and without missing a single bullet, however, you do get rewarded with a free perk which makes them more fair than the normal Nova crawlers in my opinion. The only thing that I wish that was different was the design. Like, I don't really understand why they had to kind of cut the corner with this one and just copy and paste the Nova crawler skin and all that. But other than that though, there really isn't any other mini boss on Die Rise, so this section is a little bit short. But overall, I don't see much of an issue with the jumping jacks on Die Rise because although they can be frustrating, they give you a free perk which does make them very useful and kind of fair in a way as well. Moving swiftly on to our last criteria, innovation. Die Rise not only sees innovation through its layout and weapon selection, but through the new perks and buildables as well. The new perk, Who's Who, is not that bad of a perk as some people would say. It's just placed on a bad map. Who's Who makes a deal with the player that says that they can revive themselves as many times as they want, as long as they are able to revive themselves with nothing but a colt. It's a fair perk, allowing the player to constantly revive themselves, and when paired with Quick Revive, can keep your perks as long as you just survive. The only problem with this perk is that it's just not made for this map. Sometimes using Who's Who, your doppelganger will just teleport off a cliff and you'll die. Other times it straight up just won't let you revive your doppelganger in that form. So if it was fixed and probably placed on a better map, I'm sure Who's Who would be a much better perk. Besides new perk, Die Rise also introduces the Trample Steam. Honestly, a very solid buildable that serves as both a trap and a means of transport. Using it is the easiest way to get a free perk from the jumping jacks as well. You can use it in certain locations to jump around the map and make it easier to save yourself a lot of time traversing the map. And both of these innovations are very impactful for zombies overall. The Who's Who concept would later be used in Cold War through the Tombstone perk in that game, and buildables would only further innovate throughout further maps in Black Ops 2, like Buried with the Subsurface Resonator and the Head Chopper as well, and this is kind of where Die Rise sees most of its innovation. To wrap this video up, Die-Rise is usually seen as a hated map on some people's tier list, and they usually put it below Transit and say that it is the worst map of all time. But throughout the time of making this video, my opinion has kind of changed on the map overall, as I used to be one of the people that thought it was one of the worst maps as well. But there are so many things that I find Die-Rise doing better than maps like Origins and Shadows of Evil. The weapon selection is better overall, and the mini boss reward with having a free perk is also great. No, I'm not saying Die-Rise is better than Origins or Shadows, don't be ridiculous, but when I finished the Transit Reverse Retrospective, I was still in the mindset of hating the map. But after reviewing Die-Rise, I actually found myself loving the map more than when I didn't review it. And this is why I love this series, because it brings a new view to what people consider the norm. And it also brings the view of why Die-Rise is the best map of all time. Anyways guys, hopefully you did enjoy this video. I had a lot of fun making it and whatnot. Obviously, this is kind of just to bring in a different view. I don't think Die-Rise is the greatest map of all time, like some people might think when clicking the title and whatnot. But if you did enjoy, definitely leave a like, subscribe, do all that. You already know what to do. Leave a comment down below if you want to see me do anything else and whatnot. And I have nothing else to say, so peace.